Hey guys, for fun, we're going to deviate a little bit from mental health in the movies and take a look at personality typing from the Downton Abbey series using the Enneagram system. So, the Enneagram is a tool for self discovery, growth, and helping people understand themselves. It's also widely used by managers in the corporate world for hiring the right person for the right position and managing people effectively because Enneagram looks at a person's motivations, fears, and behaviors. And if you know what someone's motivations are, it's a whole lot easier to connect, right? And predict what they're going to do. So you have to be familiar with the Downton Abbey series in order for this to be useful to you, but I will try to explain each type well enough that you can understand it, even if you've never seen a Downton Abbey episode. Cool? And I'll be talking about spoilers. So if you want to be surprised and haven't seen it, watch at least the first whole season. Okay? Okay. So imagine that the Enneagram is like a pie cut into 9 pieces and are numbered 1 through 9. And each piece contains all the ingredients of the whole pie, but each piece has more of some flavors than the others or ingredients. So that's what the Enneagram is like. Everyone is whole and has access to all the energies, but we favor those we learn to use as children to survive and distinguish ourselves from other people. Since we use some traits more, they become weaknesses or strengths. And every number has characteristics that can be used in positive ways and negative ways. And if you know what they are, it's easier to consciously shift so that you are on the high side of your number rather than the low side. Got it? When I first tested for Enneagram, and there's a free test that you can take, and I'll post it in the show notes. I was surprised to find that there were desirable and undesirable traits for my type because, aren't I perfect? And I didn't like that. But once I became aware of it, I started working on showing my highest and best self until that became my typical face. So I'm not an expert on Enneagram, but my lived experience is that as you grow as a person, you begin to not really look like any type in particular because you start to access the strengths of all 9 types. But feel free to share your experience about that if you have noticed something different or if you are the expert on Enneagram. Oh, one more thing about Enneagram before we start talking about the types. This isn't a graduated system where you move up to the next number as you grow. Your type at 25 is your type forever. You can be the best 1, 3, or 7 that you are, and that's it. So no type is better or more evolved than any other type. They're just different. So if you don't like your type, learn to embrace it because it's yours. See the gifts of the number and hone that, okay? Because every number has benefits. All right. Within the Enneagram, there are 3 triads, and this may help you to narrow down which one you are. So there's the head, the heart, and the gut. Head people are thinkers. Seems kind of obvious, right? Heart peoples are emotion or heart focused types, and the gut people are body based or tactile or kinesthetic types. They feel things. And some people classify them by emotions. Head types are ruled by shame, heart types are ruled by fear, gut types are ruled by anger. I don't really resonate with that, so I'm just going to mention that in case you hear about it. If it speaks to you, you can research that some more. And although 1 is the logical place to start, I'm going to start with number 2 so that I can talk about are the hearts in the group. Okay, so each number has a title or keyword to help you to remember what the overall energy is. There are lots of different titles depending on who you ask. So if you look it up and it says something different, it's okay. The ones that I'm using are either the most common titles or the ones that resonate the most with me. And number 2 is a helper. That person is the one who anticipates what you need before you even know you need it. That's a helper. They take care of everyone else, but nobody really remembers that they might need anything. And they're kind, thoughtful, pay attention. If you're okay, they're okay. Because the most important thing to them is relationship. Why? Because their primary drive is to be loved and wanted, and they crave connection and warmth. And their strategy is to give to you what they want in return, hoping that you're going to give it back to them. But we all know that that doesn't necessarily work that way. When it isn't working, 2s can be passive aggressive and manipulative. They've got the goods on everybody, so they can use guilt and gaslighting as a way to get their needs met. then secretly justify it to themselves because they feel victimized. And they may make themselves essential because their biggest fear is being unwanted, rejected, or seen as unlovable. As long as they are helpful and have a use, they figure that they're going to be safe, even if you don't like them. So, who's a two in Downton Abbey? Believe it or not, it's Cora Crawley. She's warm, a great hostess, and is empathic. In season 2, when Sybil decided to marry the chauffeur, everybody was against them for lots of reasons. Cora's not stupid. She's aware of the troubles that they're likely to face, but she's motivated by connection and wants to love and be loved more than anything. So her relationship with her daughter trumps everything. A 2 is most likely to value relationships more than status, tradition, other people's opinions, and sometimes even doing the right thing. They are the most likely to be an emotional anchor for other people. They want to feel needed and looked upon as the emotional rock. Anna Bates is another 2. She was the same way when Mr. Bates first came on staff in season 1. When the other staff were making fun of him and wondering if he could do the job, Anna went out of her way to make Mr. Bates feel comfortable. And later, when they were married and Mr. Bates was accused of murder, she stood by him and even married him, knowing that he could go to jail for the rest of his life. So 2s are the most likely to be helpful and loyal. They have empathy for the underdog, and so do 8s. And they may get their sense of self-worth from being needed and supportive. So common professions for a 2 are nursing, counseling, customer service, anything in hospitality, daycare, or like kindergarten teacher, and any capacity in the nonprofits. They want to make connections, educate, help people feel better, facilitate healing, provide empathy, or work in teams. Now, 3s are a very different breed. For our 3s, we have Mary Crawley and Thomas Barrow. They may seem really different, but they're 2 peas in a pod. They both are very image conscious, want status and influence, are ambitious, and are always advancing their power. Is there any wonder that the 3s are called achievers? They tend to look good. They have nice clothes, drive the nice car, get their hair and nails done, live at the right address, and have a trophy partner who can keep up with them because they learned that love is tied to performance and success. And their deepest, darkest fear is to be seen as worthless or a failure. Because of that, they're very adaptable. So 1 3 might look like a Martha Stewart type with a gorgeous home, running her own corporation, while another 3 might be a stay-at-home mom who's invested in appearing like the most involved soccer mom. And both are all about being validated for what they do, but their target for validation is different. 3s are go-getters. They tend to succeed. And at their worst, they're desperate, exploitative, deceptive, opportunistic, and detached from themselves. Mary's an heiress. There was no way she was going to marry Matthew to save Downton. She thought it would be a huge come down. But once she fell in love with him and he was engaged to Lavinia, there's no way that she's going to throw herself at him either. So 3s have their pride. But 3s aren't just about looking good. They want to achieve things and be seen as capable. So after Matthew's death, Mary's beside herself. But she learns how to manage the estate because it's a way for her to prove herself and to keep her son's inheritance intact. She isn't above getting dirty and watering pigs if that's what it takes to look like a capable manager. That's the type of thing that gave her a sense of pride and accomplishment because others would see her as indispensable and competent. But as we know, Mary has a dark side. This is 3 energy as well. When Edith's secret about her love child is about to come out, Mary makes cutting remarks to Edith and mocks her so that Mary can appear like the superior sister. And this has been her MO about everything where Edith is concerned. She has to be the best and looks down on weakness in others because she's so afraid of others seeing it in her. And Thomas is just like her. When Thomas was acting as Lord Grantham's valet, he undermined Bates to see if he could get his job. He pointed out his limp, suggesting that he's not up to the work. And he said things to O'Brien so she would say negative things about Bates so it wouldn't be him saying it. In other words, he was crafting his narrative of Bates being incompetent and Thomas being the shining example of the valet. So not all 3s are deceptive, of course. They just have their dark side, like everybody. And they tend to be hardworking, goal-oriented, organized, and decisive and can be found in careers where they can be visible, like news broadcaster, banker, lawyer, and politician. Now, fours are called the artist or the individualist, and these people are unique and like being unique. If someone doesn't know what type they are, they're typically a four or a six. And these are the two that don't like to be typed. For the four, this is because they don't think they're like anyone else. So, how could we possibly have a type? They're dreamers and creative people who are often found in careers like the arts, writing, music, psychology, fashion, film, interior design, poets, or art therapy because they like to put their individual stamp of authenticity on things. Now, the dark side of the four is that they can be self destructive, alienated, exhausted, apathetic, envious, and hypersensitive. They are moody. And they typically like being moody because for them, dark moods are just as useful and authentic as light ones. And they get their fuel for their creative side from their moods. So they don't necessarily want to be talked out of them. That's a dead giveaway for a four. I don't think any other type does that. But fours are driven by authenticity and uniqueness. And their greatest fear is being insignificant, flawed, or lacking in identity. So they tend to stand out either in their dress, the way they speak, or something that they create. And Edith is our four from Downton Abbey. She's constantly overshadowed by the firstborn achiever sister. So she finds her uniqueness in the desire to work, which women in that age didn't really do. So remember when Edith volunteered to work on a farm during the war because there was a shortage of men and she wanted to contribute and feel useful? She milks cows, drove a tractor, and did manual labor. She's a lady. Ladies didn't do that. She couldn't outshine her older sister in elegance or sophistication, so she chose a path where she could be herself. And when the war was over and she had the opportunity to write articles and found that she was good at it, she did that. She didn't want to just be a lady, someone's daughter, or someone's sister. She wanted to be her own unique self, and she created that identity for herself. Now, like all numbers, fours have their dark side too. And at their worst, they're depressed, self conscious, guilt ridden, moralistic, withdrawn, stubborn, moody, and self absorbed. And when they feel rejected or jealous, they can strike out, which is what Edith did when she told Mary's secret about sleeping with Pamuk. So she's not a perfect human being, but who is? Now, fours are often found in careers like writing, spoken word, psychology, anything creative like dance, music, visual arts, psychology, photography, or they may work outside a creative job and have a creative hobby on the side. The heart types are the 2, 3, and 4. So that's the last heart type. Now we're on to the head types, which are 5, 6, and 7. So fives are known as the investigator. They seek knowledge to stay safe. They gather information as weapons to make sure that they're never caught unaware, ignorant, or unprepared. They fear being seen as incapable or feeling overwhelmed. They retreat into their minds and ration their energy, time, and emotional connection. They can be seen as cold and detached. No, not can be. I think they're often seen as cold and detached. Now, who does that describe? And it might not jump out at you because Downton Abbey doesn't have a major character who's a Dr. Spock type, but Dr. Clarkson is a 5. He's quiet, analytical, and keeps an emotional and professional distance when he's with the Crawleys. He's pretty logical and fact driven, and he's even when he likes somebody, he's still this way. So it's more than just professionalism. I don't think anyone saw it coming when Dr. Clarkson asked Matthew's mom to marry him. I didn't see any spark at all, but he apparently felt it. So that's how fives roll. They're wise, self-contained, objective, sensitive, perceptive, distant, stubborn, unassertive, and intellectually arrogant. They're not particularly emotional. So all of that is Dr. Clarkson, and you can find them fives in intellectual fields like tech, writing, science, anything that requires analysis. Do you get the idea that fives are brainy? Yeah, they're not only research information, they generate it. So you can probably see a huge difference in the fives who are head people from the 2, 3s, and 4s, right? Okay, so 6 is a bit of a wild card. One title for them is loyalist. Another is rebel. You might think that these two keywords have nothing in common, but that's the six. They're like Geminis. They have two faces. And I haven't seen this written anywhere, but in my observation, sixes are the most likely to have a trauma background. They're motivated by safety and security, and they spend their lives looking for that guidance and support. Makes sense, right? So they are most likely to be highly sensitive people who can sniff out danger hours before anyone else. They're good at thinking of and preparing for the worst case scenario. And their deepest fear is being alone without help or a map or supplies. And sixes can either openly seek reassurances and play by the rules because that's what feels safe, or they can go full rebel on you and run into danger, head on, leading the charge. They may do one or the other. They may do one or the other back to back. That's the six. So, believe it or not, the six is the second most common Enneagram type. They do well in positions of responsibility like law enforcement, risk management, emergency room nurse, financial advisor, emergency services dispatcher, occupational health and safety specialist, or anywhere that you need someone to keep a person or a system safe. And who's that in Downton Abbey? Robert Crawley, for one. Everything that he did was a reflection of his six energy. In season one, when he realizes that he's not ever going to have a son and Lady Mary can't inherit, he won't hear of trying to cheat Matthew out of what is legally his. But he's also anxious and suspicious because he doesn't know Matthew. He doesn't know what his character is and if he has the ability to assume the responsibility of a huge estate. So is he going to love the place and carry on traditions? He doesn't know. But Robert is loyal to his family, loyal to tradition, and he's very security conscious, even though he's the one who put the estate at risk early on with the whole train thing, investing in the railroad. Another six is Mr. Bates. He was in the war with Robert, so they have a loyalty to each other. And when Robert offers him a job, Mr. Bates' loyalty gets even deeper because he knows that with his limp, his options are limited. So before Mr. Bates came to Downton, he was married and his wife committed a crime, and Mr. Bates took the rap for that to protect her. They separated, and Bates fell in love with Anna, and he wants a divorce, and his wife finds out about Anna. But Bates then does what he can to protect Anna. So he leaves Downton to protect the Crawleys' reputation, and he's very security-minded and cautious, like a six. So that's a six. Security conscious, loyal, always thinking about what the danger is and protecting other people. Seven is known as the enthusiast or adventurer, and these people are lighthearted, fun, and tend to be superficial. They stay safe by ignoring problems and not getting too deep or taking things too seriously. They're optimists who just want to have fun. And they see excitement and possibilities everywhere and have an easy time of feeling joy. They can be gluttonous for food, but also sex, laughter, wine, and anything pleasurable. This is a way that they escape their primary fear, which is to get bogged down in pain or boredom. And they keep a packed schedule, an open mind, and generate new ideas and surround themselves with others who like to keep life moving so they don't have time to feel or stay still too long so they don't feel caged. There's only one character who has that energy, and that is Rose. Remember Rose, the shameless flirt who's always taking chances and always on the alert for adventure? So she's optimistic, fun, and the life of the party. And if there is a party, Rose is there. Rose is the one who had the fling with the American jazz singer. Anyone else would know that this is scandalous, but Rose seemed to be the only one who knows that's, hey, I like this guy. When Atticus Aldridge asks her to go to Africa, she doesn't overthink it. She doesn't see any risks, just curiosity, novelty, and the thrill of new adventures. It's like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I go? So at their best, sevens do well in careers like travel writing, event planning, marketing, content creator, nature guide, consultant, product developer, digital marketing specialist, food critic, or trend forecaster. So they are thinkers who like to have a varied schedule so that they can innovate and create new things or ideas day after day. So now we get into the gut people. Remember, these people lead through their body or their knowing. And I don't mean here, head knowing. I mean, it's a different kind of thing. It's knowing, not thinking. So these are the eights, nines, and ones. The keyword for the 8 is challenger, and I call them bulldozers because they do what they want and ask permission later. 8s need to be the captain of their own ship. They need to assert their strength and refuse to be controlled by anyone. And their core fear is just that, being controlled, manipulated, or harmed. So they cultivate strength so they can't be challenged. And they crave independence and have a don't fence me in attitude. These are not people who tolerate conflict. They will run towards it or even create it to be in control of how it goes down and how they're going to crush it. That's how they deal with their intolerance of conflict. They take control of it. And that might sound like they're tyrants, and they can be, but they have a soft underbelly too. They can champion the underdog and fight against justice and those who are vulnerable. 8s are good at business leadership, entrepreneurship, law, crisis management, or political advocacy. They do well in high pressure, high stakes situations, positions of significant responsibility and decision making power. They get results if you give them the space to do their work and are decisive. The last thing you want to do with an 8 is micromanage them. And we have 2 contenders from Downton Abbey for the 8 style, and that's Violet and Mrs. Patmore. Violet has a fierce will and a commanding presence. She knows who she is, and she's not going to be pushed around. And when she realized that the family home would leave their hands when Robert died, she became very assertive and confrontational. She used every bit of her influence to make sure that that wouldn't happen. Violet's very direct and decisive, and if anything said anything she didn't like, always she stood up and made herself heard. She had the best one-liners in the whole cast and liked to put people in their place. At least let them know that they didn't scare her. So even as a woman in that time who are not typically known as being powerful, she was an 8 and powerful, and she didn't let anything get in her way. So when Mary's secret with Pamuk was in danger of coming out, Violet made it known that she was not going to allow her granddaughter's name to be ruined. She's a powerhouse, even though she's not always right. And when it was mentioned that maybe Violet always won the roses competition because who she is, she allowed the real winner to have the prize. And when confronted about modernizing the town hospital, Violet was against that. So she doesn't always win, but she always comes to the battle fully armed. 9s are peacemakers. We have to have one type who's peaceful, right? Or at least a peacemaker. They are the mediators who know how to see both sides of an issue and bring opposing sides to a mutually beneficial agreement. They're patient, easy to get along with, and conflict avoidant. When dark, 9s are irresponsible, neglectful, unavailable, obstinate, helpless, and ineffectual. Unlike the decisive 8s, 9s can be not decisive. They're consensus builders. If you need someone collaborative in a role, hire the 9, not the 8. 9s are great mediators, diplomats, human resource specialists, counselors, pastors, environmental conservationists, librarians, ombudsmen, community organizers, and lobbyists. So who's our 9? It's Sybil. Sybil is the one who's curious enough to explore what it's like to be a common person. She wanted to know more about women's rights and politics. She could see both sides of an issue, and that's why she fell in love with Branson. They had things in common, and when she had to tell her family, she kept the dramatics to a minimum. She calmly asserted herself and stayed calm. She's always searching for understanding and connection rather than ultimatums or separation. When Sybil acted as a nurse during the war, this is one way that 9 energy can show up too. It's in being of service to others without needing acknowledgement. So 9s are pretty low-key people who can put others' needs ahead of their own. Our last number is 1. The 1 is the judge or reformer, and they're motivated by ethics, virtue, moral, and doing the right thing. Not as in following the rules, because that's more of a 6 trait, but it's because it's fair. So 1s do what they say they're going to do and can't believe it when others don't do the same. They want to do good and live with integrity. They can be generous, uplifting, and wise. They can also be perfectionistic, judgmental, immature, hypocritical, badgering, merciless, intolerant, and inflexible. And they're most likely to be the control freaks. 1s fear that they're going to be corrupted or evil, so they live by their moral code to control impulses, justify themselves, or just to keep people from criticizing them before it even happens. And this might sound alarming, but surprise, this is another very common Enneagram type. So maybe I'm talking about you. You can find ones working anywhere, but they're most at home working in the law, academia, quality assurance, and places where they can strive towards excellence, meeting standards, or making things correct. They're good auditors, editors, lawyers, quality control people, ethics officers, policy analysts, curriculum developers, and project managers. If you want a fun, flexible environment, don't hire a one. The most one of all the ones in Downton Abbey is Mr. Carson. He's the one who takes responsibility for the moral, ethical, and correct ways of running things at Downton. He doesn't let standards slip unless it has to do with Lady Mary. In that case, all bets are off. When he was about to be exposed for having a job on stage, which was seen as scandalous in those days, he was ready to resign rather than have the Crawleys associated with that. And that comes from his principles. But too much of a good thing isn't a good thing. And sometimes Mr. Carson overdid it, as ones could do. He was pretty hard on John Bates because of his criminal past and his limp. Mr. Carson is pretty inflexible and has a hard time with change. He can be horrified if people don't meet his moral standards, and this is a problem for the ones. I think it's useful to learn about a personality typing system so that you can have a shortcut to seeing people. It's not about putting them in a box. So for me, it's about learning where the boundaries of the box are so I can climb out, use my strengths, and become a whole person. So let me give you some tips on how to be your best and brightest self so it's not just about information but growth. So for twos, learn healthy boundaries. Learn to say what you mean and mean what you say, especially how to say no, and give yourself what you give others. Don't wait or expect anyone else to know what you need. For threes, learn to play. Learn how to let go of goals and yardsticks and do something just for the joy of it. Separate what you do from your sense of self-worth. For fours, make something in your life routine so that you can have something in common with the rest of us. Then learn to love it. Learn to connect with the rest of us and see the wonder and beauty of things that are mundane. You already do that with sadness. Do it with weather, breathing, or eating. Learn to appreciate what's here now as much as you do possibilities and dreams. If you're a five, put all your data to use. Do something useful with it. Share it. Create something with it. Apply it. And do it in community. Share yourself with at least one other person. You're too isolated. Connect. For sixes, get some trauma work so you can learn to trust yourself. Ask yourself things like, what do I think? What do I want? Don't second guess. Don't phone a friend. Just answer the question and let that be the answer. For sixes, learn mindfulness. Steep yourself in present moment awareness so you have moments in the day where you aren't escaping. This will help you to increase your window of tolerance for all the feelings that you don't allow yourself to feel. For eight, get to know your walls. You can't let them down until you acknowledge that they're there. Find a safe place to practice letting them down, like therapy or a talking circle, AA, or a confessional. Practice exposing your soft underbelly with safe people so that you learn it's okay to be vulnerable. Strength is not just in being hard, but in knowing how to be soft. For nine, speak your truth. Be decisive. Say what you want. White or black, left or right. It's okay to have a voice and a preference. Find out what yours is. Finally, for ones, learn to embrace good enough. You don't have to be perfect. Flaws are part of a person's story, and it makes it more interesting. Allow yourself and others to be interesting, and give others space to be messy and imperfect too. Accept that everyone doesn't have your standards or desires. The world doesn't have to conform to your ideals. If you found this useful, please give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think your type is. I think mental health should be accessible. We don't have to be a mystery to ourselves or others when we have mental health in the movies that we can learn from. And if you think the characters of Downton Abbey have a different type than the ones listed here, that's okay. They're not real people. The point is to let you know that there are 9 different types, and it can be useful for you to get to know yourself and other people. Even the best written characters don't have a rich backstory that real people do, so you can make an argument for a different type. If it's well thought out and matches for you, use that one. When a movie or show has a big cast, it's fun to take a look to see what makes people tick and how you're like them. Like what can you learn from them? So you have an Enneagram type 2. So whether you are the person looking to grow or a writer trying to hone in on this character skill development or your skills for character development, I hope this was useful and fun for you. Appreciate you being here. See you next week. Ciao.